How has consumer empowerment, trust, and confidence in dietary supplements contributed to growth in the self-care aisle? With more than 70,000 products on the market, the dietary supplements segment has just experienced its largest annual growth rate since 1997. While the category is well regulated, gaps in quality are out there, with some inappropriate claims and adulterated products. Hear from Dr. Pieter Cohen as he shares his insights on how modernization of DSHEA will help improve category compliance and credibility, and ultimately benefit the consumer.
Welcome to CHPA Chat, Conversations in the Consumer Healthcare Industry with Anita Brickman.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for checking out the CHPA Chat, the podcast of the Consumer Healthcare Products Association. We are thrilled to bring you a series within Season 1 of CHPA Chat featuring our own dietary supplements expert, Dr. John Troup, as your host. As people become more and more interested in health and wellness, it's leading to greater demand for dietary supplements. John will explore current issues and topics of interest in the supplement space, bringing thought leaders on this show to offer a broad perspective about the category and the role it can play in consumer healthcare. Take it away, John.
Thanks, Anita. I'm excited about today's interview and discussion with Dr. Pieter Cohen. Pieter, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, John.
Pieter, you are currently associate professor at Harvard Medical School and a clinician at the Cambridge Health Alliance. Tell us a little bit, before we start talking about some of the issues today facing dietary supplements. One is, how did you get interested in medicine? And then secondly, as part of that, how did you get interested in dietary supplements and studying the role of supplements?
Sure. Well, in terms of medicine, it's actually a story that started in Brazil. I was studying ecology outside of the Amazon city of Belém. And when I was there, sandflies bit me, and I knew that was happening. But what I didn't know was that one of them transmitted a tropical disease called leishmaniasis into my leg. So it was really when I got back months later, and this ulcer was growing on the back of my leg, that I needed really specialized care, actually to the point where the CDC was shipping up medication to Boston for the doctors to treat me. That got me fascinated with medicine.
Right.
I then got interested in supplements because of my patients. I I need to rely on supplements every single day in clinic. There's not a day that passes in clinic that I'm not recommending my patients are taking their supplements that sometimes I've prescribed or other doctors have prescribed. So they're just an essential part of medical care.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. But my interest in the safety of supplements really grew out of harms I was seeing. There were certain supplements, certain categories of supplements that were posing some real risks to my patients. For example, weight loss supplements and certain weight loss supplements. And it was in investigating those that really drew me into this work.
Yeah. You've been a prolific author and investigator of the safe use of dietary supplements, and because of that, I think a great advocate for the category and its safe use in the category. But tell us a little bit more about how big of an issue do you see this when you talk to your patients? Are they all successfully using supplements, or a good majority of them having issues and trying to better understand how to use them? I mean, what are you seeing on the patient side that first brought about concern and made it that you wanted to write about this and be an advocate for safe use?
Right. So I saw a lot of patterns that were worrisome. So while there were the supplements that we were encouraging our patients to use and really take every day, there was also patients had a, from my perspective, a inappropriate trust in just about everything that was being sold as a dietary supplement. And that would sometimes lead to risks. So that would lead to patients trying something that was being sold as if it would make them stronger, faster in the sports field. And then they end up with serious inflammation of their liver, for example. So it was these kind of scenarios, and really time after time, that made me concerned and want to see how can we create a better system. How can we fix this so that consumers are safe, and that when they turn to supplements available for sale in the States.
Yeah. So where does this overconfidence, if you will, on the part of consumers using supplements come from? Is it poor labeling, lack of sufficient clinical substantiation? What's at the root of this overconfidence, or is it just an overstatement of the benefits that are made by some products and inappropriate use of structure function statements?
So I think there are a number of factors that lead to overconfidence in supplements. One is how that you walk into a store, bright lights, friendly store personnel, that are talking to you about various products. And oftentimes you'll have supplements sitting right next to other products, such as over-the-counter drugs like Tylenol and aspirin, that are extremely tightly regulated by the FDA. And it's really hard for consumers to distinguish the two. I mean, it's only those of us, on the inside who really know the difference between a drugs fact label and a supplement facts label. That's not something that an average consumer is going to have any insight into. And certainly what that means in terms of the regulatory framework for those two categories. So I think there's a lot of reasons. In addition to structure, in my opinion, we have problems with structure function claims. I know this is going to be controversial in some circles, but I think that structure function claims are being stretched in a way that misleads consumers. Yeah. To think that these products are going to have immediate health effects that they don't necessarily have. So I think there's multiple factors contributing to the overconfidence.
Yeah. So what do you think happened? In 1994, there's a Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act that actually helped to at least frame a regulatory environment for dietary supplements. And it's been around now, for 26 plus years. But is there a need and an opportunity for that act to be modernized in a way that helps enforcement to make sure that the unscrupulous players that are making inappropriate structure function statements don't anymore? Or what can be done in the category given the regulatory framework that's available, but still, let's inappropriate statements to be made that yields to this overconfidence of consumers?
Yeah, John, I think we are at a really exciting time where I can envision practical changes that, many of us from various different perspectives can come together and see that ensure that the consumer confidence in supplements is supported by the quality of the products, and not just the most ethical firms, but every single product being sold as dietary supplement in the United States. So I think we have a really exciting, unique opportunity right now to see some positive change in this way.
There's a big initiative across the retailers in America that are introducing quality assurance programs where they add another layer of request for information to substantiate that the product has met quality labeling and provide the quality assurance necessary to the product testing. Do you think that's one good step that can facilitate what you're talking about, or are there other, say, regulatory requirements or even legislation that should be done that would complement even the retailer initiatives that are taking place?
Yeah, I think that we need to complement this work so that every supplement, no matter where you buy it, if you buy it from the most meticulous retailers or you're buying it online, that consumers have a way of checking and ensuring that it's appropriate in terms of it's permitted under the law, the FDA is aware of its sale, and there's no reason for any concern about the product. So I think we could really use this to springboard onto a much broader program that includes all dietary supplements.
Yeah, there's been somewhere in the neighborhood of 70,000 products estimated to be classify as a dietary supplement in America. So that's a lot. We've talked about, even you and I have talked about in the past as industry as a whole, on the importance of mandatory product listing, where then the FDA would have a clear and easier line of sight of what's out there and what's being said. Do you think that's enough? Or, with 70,000 products in the market, mandatory product listing would certainly help, but that's probably not enough either, is it?
Well, I definitely am supportive of a product registry, but one that would have to have enough teeth in it to make it useful. If we just have a product listing process where everyone's required to submit the paperwork to the FDA prior to sale, I think, and the FDA is required to post all that on their websites and maintain a database, I don't really see we're doing much more than creating a lot more bureaucracy for a little bit for firms, but a lot for the FDA. And that would likely just tie them up from doing the most important stuff, making sure that the firms are producing high quality products, that the products out there are safe, that dangerous ones are removed. So, but on the other hand, I think that if we were to design a listing, a registry that has sufficient teeth to make it truly transparent to consumers, for example, if the FDA has concerns about ingredients, that should be clearly flagged right there on the registry. If the registry is tied to a QR code, a specific code that consumers can use right at the point of sales, and see if there's any concerns that the FDA has raised with this product or this firm. Those are kind of the steps that I would see would be necessary for a listing or a registry to be useful. If it doesn't if the FDA is not able to use it to enhance transparency, I'm not so sure that a listing will do much more than create a lot more paperwork for the agency.
So it sounds that you would be a proponent of not only mandatory product listing, but also along with that, some kind of a consumer education or a tool that could help facilitate the awareness of a consumer on the appropriate use or selection of a product.
That would be, it would be very important to be transparent. Examples, John, that I'm thinking about are, let's say a firm submits a label to the FDA that includes an ingredient that the FDA has already determined is not permitted in supplements. I see no reason why the FDA would be required to place that on their registry. On the other hand, what if the FDA is decided after the fact that an ingredient is of potential concern, or there might be safety issues with an ingredient at a certain dose? I would like to see that the registry includes the ability, and the FDA has the authority, to place information about that directly onto the registry. You're raising other very interesting questions, though. Should it be what sort of information could be tied there and used there? And of course, this immediately draws and segues into what we were talking about before. It could be used for misinformation too. If structure function claims, especially ones that stretch reality, are permitted to be placed right there on the FDA website at the point of sale, we'd have to think carefully whether or not that sort of information is doing more harm than good.
What about the opportunity of inspections? Right now, as I understand it, somewhere in the neighborhood of between 500 and 600 manufacturing facilities are inspected or audited by the FDA. It's not enough, right? And of those 500 to 600 sites that are audited, about a third of them are repeat visits from the year before. So the total number of manufacturers far exceeds what inspections are going on. Do you think there's a solution to that? And actually, if there is a solution, do you think that'll make the difference, particularly for, say, smaller companies that maybe haven't invested as much as they ought to in quality assurance and quality control?
Well, these are great questions. I think first off, we need to figure out how to make the inspections useful, effective, before we just expand out what we're doing. I mean, from what I understand, what the FDA is seeing in terms of non-compliance with CGMPs, it's very similar year to year. Despite all these inspections, all the inspections that they're doing, which I agree with you are not nearly enough to get a handle on the entire industry. And we're also seeing that the FDA goes back to the same firm again, and they find the same problem. So, and that ties up the agency too, of course. They have to do all these inspections and at the same, one firm and tying up their resources. So we're going to need to figure out some way for these inspections to have more, consequences, honestly. And as far as I can see, even when they're very serious violations, it almost always is just a slap on the wrist. And the firm who's not compliant with CGMPs can continue to sell their products. This is another way that I'm thinking that the registry could be useful for transparency. Imagine a situation where a firm was in violation of CGMPs to such a level that requires a rapid return of the agency in a short period of time. That could be defined, or it's some big concerns about the inspection. Why not flag all products made by that firm on the registry to be clear that the FDA is currently needing to reinspect them soon because of problems they found the last time? Well, I think all of a sudden, if that were point of sale and every consumer could see that when they purchase their product, all of a sudden, I would expect compliance is going to pop way up in terms of CGMPs, and we'd be in a much better position. So that's another idea of sort of transparency and.
Similarly, your examples and discussions on consumers who are reporting adverse events. There's a method and a practice in the United States that requires reporting of adverse events of patients. Whenever they take something, it should be reported in a program called MedWatch. And depending on how serious that adverse event might be, a serious adverse event, it would actually require reporting to the FDA and at the very least, voluntary product withdrawal from the market. But a lot of those adverse events aren't really followed up on, and there's no enforcement way to give that, kind of to your example here, meat to take that information and then automatically or quickly take the product off the market. Do you see a link that's possible from clinical care to medical reporting to enforcement as a possibility, or is that just going to be too wieldy that it won't be effective?
Well, I think first off, it's another caution, I guess, with the registry that I would want to make. Similar to the structure function claims, I would not like to see those on the registry. I would also not want to see every time someone's reported something to MedWatch that those reports are linked to the registry. Because as we know, there's lots of different reasons reports get into the MedWatch system. And it's not necessarily that the supplement caused that harm. So we don't want spurious data to get in there. And we also, I'm sometimes struck by the fact that there can be really serious adverse events happening that never make it into the current system. So I think we need to, not have those two connected. I think that would do a disservice to consumers. But what I do think is that once the FDA evaluates MedWatch or independent data to suggest harm of an ingredient or a product, that's delisting on the registry or being able to remove it directly, immediately from market would be, in my opinion, to make sure that everything on the registry is as safe as possible, would be essential. If the FDA didn't have the authority to delist a product based on safety, then again, and instead they're tied up in court for years about every brand, we're not going to see improvement in that on that front.
There's always, and for 50 plus years, right, ongoing debate within the healthcare community by and large on the value, on the use of dietary supplements. And many in the healthcare community would even not recommend dietary supplements. Is it because of the safety issue? And if that's the case, what will it take for this industry, to have a better level of credibility with healthcare, with the healthcare system and healthcare providers? Is it these regulatory issues and frameworks that we're talking about, or is it something more than that the industry should be sensitive to and working on?
I think the two most important things are, one is the quality of the products. I think when we see study after study showing that the labels don't actually accurately capture what's actually in the supplement, that is really hard for us as physicians, because how can we recommend something when we don't even know what our patients are taking? The other part of it is when it comes to efficacy. And where there's a bit of a disconnect between, in medicine, we're trying to, use things that have been proven valuable in multiple large clinical trials. Now, we are also using things that are very potent, might have many serious side effects, but we want to have had those clinical trials performed so that we can understand the benefits, understand the risks, and then make a thoughtful decision for individual patient. I think the problem that we run into often with physicians is in the claims. The soon as we start seeing claims that these supplements will do things without evidence from clinical trials in humans, that's really not going to build trust, I guess, among us. And there's just unfortunately a very large segment of supplements are making these kind of claims without large clinical trials.
Yeah, I have to ask you, since everybody's thinking about it and living the world right now, is the whole pandemic, COVID-19. There's been such an increase in the use of dietary supplements by consumers, in part kind of a preventive care approach to COVID-19. Has that been a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Have you seen an increased number of patient complaints or adverse events along with the growth in the category and the increased use of supplements? Or what's happening on the other side in clinical care?
Yeah, I've got to say, John, that in terms of COVID care, and I do a lot of it, I work in a COVID clinic, and have been doing that since the pandemic started in last March. Patients are really sick in clinic, and we have so many sort of immediate concerns that we're dealing with, whether or not someone can walk safely into the room or someone needs to go to the emergency room, that honestly, we don't have, I haven't had the time to flesh out, oftentimes, even though it's an area that I, of course, am very interested in, what's going on with their supplement use, because we have so many competing concerns. Are they going to be able to have food available when they're sick with supplements? Do they need to get on oxygen in the hospital? How can they keep their loved ones at home from getting infected? So I guess, it's like the acuity of the issue from the medical side creates a lot of attention to this immediate needs and crisis. So I really don't have a good answer to you in terms of what people are doing in terms of supplement use and what's going on with that.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for you and your colleagues and all the work that you're doing on the front line. What do you have any idea what number you were when you got your vaccine? I'm guessing you already had the vaccine, but were you one of the first receivers? And
yeah, in Massachusetts, we were, so people on the front lines were one of the first, probably on like the second day it was being offered in Massachusetts or in the health center, I was able to get it. It was a big snowstorm that day though. So I had a snowshoe 4.5 miles into the hospital and
really?
4.5 miles back to get my vaccine. But it was a day I will never forget. That is a medical, a medical success story that's just remarkable, that in March we didn't even know what this disease would do when we showed up in clinic. Yeah. And then I was able to have a vaccine going into my arm, which had FDA emergency use authorization, right. Less than 12 months later. Incredible.
And did you get the second shot already?
Yeah, I got the second. It's already been 2 weeks on the second, so I'm kind of in the post-pandemic, living a post-pandemic
yeah.
life.
Well, good. I'm glad to see you healthy, and again, thanks for all the work of you and your colleagues and taking care of so many patients. But anyway, You know, the last couple of minutes that we have left, I'm a little curious. Did you grow up in the Northeast? Are you Bostonian or?
Yeah, I'm I've been a Red Sox fan since I, could remember.
Yeah.
And I grew up right outside of Boston.
Yeah.
And although I went away for undergrad and grad school, I came back and been here for my clinical practice. I've been practicing out of Somerville for over 20 years now.
Yeah. Well, I got to ask you, if you're a big Boston area sports fan, how do you feel about Tom Brady and a 43-year-old quarterback winning a Super Bowl without being on the Patriots team? How do you feel about that? Excited or?
Well, it was an extremely impressive. I just, when I was 43, I mean, one of those hits would had me, hospitalized for 3 months, and now I wouldn't even be able to walk. So it's a remarkable feat.
Right. Well, so I gotta ask you, as a fan, not as a physician, how do you feel about Tom Brady's nutrition regimen and lifestyle regimen? Is that good, or you're excited to see a guy be able to stay that fit for as long as he has? Or?
Yeah. Well, I think it's always good if we're encouraging healthy lifestyle, habits. Yeah. I think it's, we have to be careful of extrapolating. I think, Tom Brady is incredibly unique. Like, we think probably the best quarterback ever. So we should not extrapolate. It could be that his unbelievable skill and his dedication to his practice is 99.9% responsible for what he's up to, and not any particular, regimen. So, I think we have to be careful in terms of extracting it. That's why I like to see the data. Yeah. So show me the data.
Well, I'm so glad to hear you say that. That means that I can keep eating tomatoes and avocados. Thank God for that, and drinking a glass of wine. So, Dr. Pieter Cohen, thanks very much for being the advocate that you are in the safe use of dietary supplements and the difference that you and your publications make, and taking the time to talk to us about these important issues to help make the industry even better. Pieter, thanks very much for your time. It's great, as always, talking to you. For those of you who would like to learn more about his position in advocating for the safe use of dietary supplements, we'd encourage you to go to the New England Journal of Medicine and read the article that he co-authored with Scott Bass on the issues facing the dietary supplement industry and possible solutions.
Thank you for joining us here at CHPA Chat. For more information and to hear our entire catalog of shows, please visit chpa.org.